Okay. Good afternoon. I hereby call the special meeting of the Administrative Appeals Board of May 7th, 2025 to order. Board Secretary, can you take the roll call?
Board Member Hein.
Here.
Vice Chair Parker.
Here.
Board Winterbaum. Sorry, Board Member Winterbaum.
Here.
Chair Basili.
Here.
4 members present.
Great, thank you. First item is the acceptance of the agenda. Our next item, the board can discuss and may amend the order of the agenda. At this time, I'd like to entertain a motion and a second for acceptance of the agenda.
I'll move that we accept the agenda as issued.
Second.
Okay, great. Board Secretary, please take the vote.
Vice Chair Parker.
Aye.
Board Member Hein. Aye. Board Member Winterbaum.
Aye.
And Chair Basili.
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
Great. Next section is the public comment. At this time, it's been set aside for the members of the public to address the board on the items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. 3 minutes will be assigned to each speaker. Although the board values your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, the board generally cannot take any action on items that are not listed on the posted agenda. Testimony for the hearings will only be taken at the time of the hearing. Board Secretary, please begin the public comment period.
We can begin the public comment period, and we do have Francine McDougall from VRON. Just. Do I come in? Yeah, you'll just press the button and it'll turn green.
Great.
Hi, I'm Francine. I'm a board member of VRON, Vacation Rental Owners and Neighbours of Palm Springs. And I forwarded an email, which hopefully you all got, regarding the proposal that you're sending to council regarding the vacation rental ordinance. I presume you've all read it, so I'm not going to go over it again. But we are very much in support of what you're doing, and we hope that it gets to council sooner rather than later, because I know it's been an extremely long time in the making. I don't know if this is allowed, but I guess I'm basically here to, if you had any questions regarding anything that I sent to you, with our ideas on your, sorry, I can't remember what the word is that your report, thank you, on your report. I don't know, are they allowed to ask me questions or no? Okay. Anyway, when they get to that item, are they allowed to?
If you wish to speak during that, during the ad hoc item.
Yeah, no, okay. There you have it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item number 4. Concerning the property at 3187 East Ventura Road. It's an appeal of the $500 and a 2-year suspension of the vacation rental registration certificate. Board Secretary, please ensure that the city staff and the appellant understand that their testimony is under oath.
We do have signed affidavits from city staff, and the appellant is in person. Anyone on Zoom who desires to testify under this appeal hearing under the laws of perjury, if you choose to speak, you hereby accept and acknowledge that your testimony shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Great, thank you. Staff, if you please present the report.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, and attendees to this hearing. My name is Patrick Clifford with the Department of Special Program Compliance, and we oversee the vacation rental program here in the city of Palm Springs. The staff report before you this afternoon is outlines the citation history at the property 3187 Ventura Road, including 3 concurring violations occurring between May 2024 and February 2025, and the resulting administrative suspension of the vacation rental registration certificate that was effective March 31, 2025, suspended through March 31, 2027. Now, the property located at 3187 Ventura Road is a registered vacation rental operated under vacation rental registration certificate number 051456 with the start date December 1st, 2022. At that time, this registration was governed by the City of Palm Springs Vacation Rental Ordinance number 1918, originally adopted in April 2017, and later amended and restated in November of 2022 through Ordinance number 2075. The ordinance outlines regulations applicable to both guests and property owners for rentals of 28 consecutive days or fewer, including specific provisions regarding noise, parking, and administrative enforcement. Notably, the ordinance mandates that upon the third violation within any 12-month period, the city manager shall suspend the vacation rental registration certificate for a period of 2 years. Additionally, the Palm Springs Municipal Code provides further regulatory details. Section 5.25070G prohibits any amplified sound from being audible at the property line of a vacation rental. Section 5.25070C limits the number of vehicles allowed at the vacation rental to no more than one per bedroom. Under section 5.25090B, 3 violations within a 12-month period result in a mandatory 2-year suspension of the registration certificate, and appeals concerning the third citation resulting in the suspension are handled by the Administrative Appeals Board in accordance with administrative regulation dated August 2017 and Palm Springs Municipal Code Chapter 2.50. Our code compliance supervisor, Officer Napan, is available to provide further information with respect to the issuance of the third citation. I would like to invite him up to give further testimony. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the board, my fellow city staff, and members of the public attending today's hearing. My name is Mitch Nabhan. I'm the code compliance supervisor for the city of Palm Springs, and I oversee the city's vacation rental enforcement program. On Saturday, February 22nd, 2025, at approximately 4:32 p.m., the city's 24-hour vacation rental hotline received a report regarding a disturbance involving a party at the vacation rental property located at 3187 East Ventura Road. The report noted 4 vehicles at the property, amplified music, and loud talking. Officer Jesse Grijalva, the primary vacation rental enforcement officer on call at the time, was dispatched to investigate and arrived at the property at 4:53 p.m., accompanied by Code Officer Jean-Marie Keogh, who served as a secondary officer. Officer Grijalva began his observation from the street in front of the property, where a violation for music heard beyond the property line was observed, with the source of the noise being determined to be coming from inside the home. Additionally, while continuing his observation from the street beyond the property line, using his department-issued devices, Officer Grijalva identified the song title and artist of the music being played and logged decibel levels for reference purposes only. That information can be found in the staff report on pages 44 and 47. Officer Grijalva then made contact with the occupants at the front door to address the reported concern and the observed violation. The guests acknowledged that they were playing music from the property's television. The responsible renter, identified as Brandon, stated he believed, based on the Airbnb advertisement, that playing music was permissible as long as it did not continue past 7 p.m. Officer Grijalva took the opportunity to educate the guests on the city's regulations regarding music at vacation rental properties, provided a good neighbor brochure for their reference, and encouraged compliance to prevent any further disturbances. When Officer Grijalva attempted to issue a citation for the violation, the responsible renter became uncooperative and refused to provide their government-issued identification. Attempts were then made to contact a listed local contact for assistance, but were unsuccessful, as calls and messages were not returned. Eventually, Officer Grijalva was able to reach the property owner, who assisted in having the necessary information provided. As a result, citation A8868 was issued for a violation of PSMC 525-070G, music heard beyond the property line. So this will conclude what I have to present. And although Officer Grijalva is currently attending a training event in San Diego, is unavailable for today's hearing, I'm available to answer any follow-up questions you may have related to this citation. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Patrick.
Thank you, Mitch. I have no further testimony.
Great, thank you very much. Is there any questions from the board?
Yeah, I have one, Mitch. You mentioned in your testimony that the party that was there at the property was uncooperative at the point where the citation was going to be issued and want to provide ID, etc. But then later, after talking with the owner, you were able to issue the citation. Who was the citation issued to?
So the citation was issued to the responsible renter,
Renter.
because his name was Brandon McDaniel. And from what I understand, based off of Officer Grijal's reporting, is that there may have been a call that was placed by the owner to his guests that encouraged that renter to cooperate with my officers and provide that information.
Okay. And was that fine paid?
Yes, correct, that fine is paid.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. Any
I have a question. On page 3 of the staff report. Relative to this third citation, the last sentence in the first paragraph on that page. Talks about the appeal by the property owner on March 27th, and it says the matter was heard by an independent hearing officer through the city's citation processing vendor data ticket, and the violation was upheld.
Yes.
Can you explain that to me? I wasn't aware that was even a process.
Yes, that's correct. So with respect to the citations that are issued to guests, they appeal that through data tickets. So a lot of our citations, even like for the first 2 citations that they're issued, they have the opportunity to appeal. And through our independent hearing officer, through our vendor to process citations with company data tickets. And so the RP, or the responsible person on the property, did appeal that through them. And there was a hearing scheduled for that item. And then the hearing officer heard that item and took testimony from the officer that was at the property that issued the citation and upheld the violation.
Thank you. So when was that? When did that happen?
I believe that was back in March that occurred.
Okay, thank you.
Patrick, just to clarify, so that data ticket here's appeals to citations issued to the renter, is that right?
That's correct. And when I read the hearing notice, I believe the owner accompanied the renter on top of that with the appeal, but the appeal is from the renter because they were the ones that were cited.
Okay, gotcha, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Let's move on. So at this time, I'd like to open the appeal hearing. The appellant is invited to speak up to 10 minutes. Any members of the public who desire to speak at this appeal hearing shall have up to 3 minutes to speak. If any member of the public testifies, the appellant will be invited to provide a rebuttal for up to 2 additional minutes. Is the appellant here?
He's right here.
Oh, great. Could you press the button and introduce yourself, please?
Good afternoon, my name is Alvin De Leon.
Okay, your time will start right now.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Alvin. I am accompanied by my wife Sheena and my 2-year-old son Aaron. I'm here to respectfully appeal the suspension of our short-term rental permit number 051-456 for 3187 East Ventura Road. I understand that the suspension is due to a 3rd violation within 12 months. And I'd like to provide additional context as an individuals who take our responsibilities as hosts very seriously. My wife and I purchased a property in 2022 as our primary residence and intended to reside there for several years as we started our family. After my wife got pregnant, we had a difficult pregnancy, so we made the decision to move in with our family based out of Santa Clarita for additional support. During that time, we explored options available for us to continue to afford our home and decided to convert the home into a short-term rental so that we can continue to visit regularly as a family. As first-time hosts, we learned a lot about what it takes to run a short-term rental. And we collected a lot of learnings along the way. We have a great deal of respect for the city of Palm Springs and truly want to do right for the city and our community. We acknowledge and accept accountability that there is more that we could have done when the first 2 citations were issued. With every citation, we course corrected and have always aimed to comply with the ordinance 2075. For the last citation that was issued, We took every measure possible to ensure our guests followed all the rules that were outlined under the ordinance 2075. Specifically, the operational requirements and standard conditions sections, which states that as a owner of the property, I have responsibly done prudent property owner practices to ensure that the occupants and or guests of the vacation rental unit do not create unreasonable noise disturbance, engage in disorderly conduct, or violate provisions of the municipal code or any state law. I believe I've implemented all proactive measures within my power as a host, and there's not anything that we could have done to prevent our guests from breaking the rules that were clearly outlined in multiple occasions. Some examples of what we have done include the Airbnb listing includes clear information on Palm Springs noise ordinance. Guests must agree to the rules stated on the website before booking. I have an automated messaging sent to the booking with the noise ordinance details. Guests must reply and confirm that they understand the rules prior to arrival. I make personal contact with the guests to reinforce these rules. Some on-site enforcement tools I use is a Ring camera that is placed in front of the home to monitor noise. Signages, it's city-issued registration certificates posted at the front door and the back sliding door. There are multiple signs with noise rules in multiple areas in the common kitchen, pool, and entryways. I also have copies of the Good Neighbor brochure, which are posted in the common area and in each bedroom. Additional measures that I'll be taking going forward is I plan to join VRON, the Vacation Rental Owner and Neighborhood Group, to promote responsible hosting. And I plan to voluntarily reduce my max guests from 8 to 4 to reduce potential for disturbances. I respectfully ask that council to reconsider the suspension of my permit. I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Finished. Any other comment?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. Board Secretary, are there any commenters?
No commenters.
Okay. Then at this time, would like to close the public hearing. And next, I'd like to open it up for discussion and additional questions from the board.
Don't we need to question you?
It's at this time now.
Thank you, appreciate that, sorry. Thank you for your presence today, we appreciate it. Thanks also for the research you apparently did before you even got into the short-term rental business. I think that's evident. The things that you did and prepared yourself to actually take the leap and get involved. I know you mentioned some things that you did. Can you tell me what specifically you did relative to citation 2 and before 3? I think you mentioned after the first one, you did something. And then I think you said after the second citation, there were some other things that you did before this third one happened. What were those things?
So for the first citation, we got the vehicle exceeding occupancy limit. One of the things that I do now is during any guest stay, the Ring camera shows our driveway. I later researched and found out from that tenant that they had a friend that was just passing by and just parked. So during the speaking of during our conversation through messaging, I always make it clear that the 4 vehicles per bedroom. And for the second one with the noise ordinance, I added additional posters within my house in the backyard. I originally just had it inside the home, but I come to realize that if it's visible everywhere, it's a reminder for them to keep their noise down.
Okay.
So I added additional signages.
Okay. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions from the board? Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'd like to open up any discussion among the board right now, any comments before we make a motion?
So I'll just make a general comment, and I meant what I said to the appellant, that it's clear the research that they did before they got into the business, which I think we can all appreciate. I think the unfortunate circumstance here is the code does not allow for exceptions to say that I took all of these precautions in order for this citation, this violation to occur. So I feel like in this instance, they did a lot of things to try to prevent it. Unfortunately, they had some tenants that clearly didn't follow their rules and the city rules. So I feel like our hands are sort of tied here with this one.
I agree with that assessment.
So do I. I mean, I feel for the appellant. Because it sounds like you're a really good and conscientious host. But unfortunately, that's not the rule. The rule is the behavior of the guest. Rightly or wrongly, reasonable or not, that's what we have. So, I wish the appellant luck going forward. If there is any kind of mechanism, and I believe there might be, at least on Airbnb, where hosts rate their guests and those ratings are visible and available to other Airbnb hosts. That you would make use of that, and I'm sorry, your parts of it, but if there is some tool that's available to you to use, I would encourage you to do that. But otherwise, I'm afraid we have the ordinance and that's how it operates, so.
Okay, and I agree with you as well. Unfortunately, this sometimes seems to be an ongoing situation for homeowners when they're renting out. We can't always control the renters, and that's the unfortunate part. Okay, I'd like to move right now for a motion and a second.
I'll move that we uphold the $500 fine and the 2-year suspension of the vacation rental certificate.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Board Secretary, can you take a vote?
Vice Chair Parker,
Aye.
Board Member Winterbottom.
Aye.
Board Member Hein,
I,
and Chair Bissonnette.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0 to adopt the resolution upholding the administrative decision.
Okay, the city will be in touch with you. Thank you. Okay, next item, number 5. This portion of the meeting is set aside for the board to discuss and approve the ordinance updates from the subcommittee members and legal. So before we start, I just I know the last meeting we had, the board members didn't get a chance to read this. So did you get a chance to review it?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
yes, in some detail, there's kind of a lot here. Including the public comments, we got 2 of those, and so.
Okay. So any feedback, discussion about the recommendations of the subcommittee?
Well, I'd like to address the public comments first,
Go ahead.
because we do have one of the commentators here, and I want to thank you for that, because I thought it was helpful. Now, if I can always find the email. She had a couple of questions about here it is.
Or requests, I think. Yeah.
Some of it was about the language and some of it was about the substance. Here we go. I was interested to consider the point where the public comment indicates that vacation rental homeowners generally do not live in Palm Springs, which would have an impact on one of the goals of our suggested amendment to the ordinance, in that many of the steps that we're suggesting be taken locally would be taken locally. And so I'm curious, and Patrick, maybe you know the answer to this, but what percentage of registered short-term rental owners in Palm Springs do not live here?
Yeah, so I don't really have an exact percentage, but I can say that the nature of vacation rentals is where you're renting out your entire home for a period of 28 days or fewer. And so the majority, I would say, don't live in Palm Springs, but there are some that live in the Potrero Valley or have a secondary home here in Palm Springs as well. So don't have an exact number for that, but to that point, we have done in the past mailers to addresses addressing such concern where we want to reach out to just not the local address, but their actual mailing address. With respect that we research the address that's on the tax rolls and we mail out we mailed a flyer to addresses outside of the state and someone outside of the country as well to really try to reach homeowners that do have a secondary home and don't live locally and maybe out of state.
Okay, thank you, and which also kind of leads to my second question is what we're doing now in terms of educating homeowners, whether they're local or otherwise, is that effective enough? I take it we don't think so, or we're looking to sort of bolster communication with vacation rental homeowners about Palm Springs ordinance, and so I don't, and I guess it would be for this meeting, but I don't want to make recommendations to council that are duplicative of the things we already do, or that are things that you've tried and haven't been successful. I just want to find the most effective way to educate property owners. And to the extent that you have thoughts about that, what do we do now versus what could we do better?
Yeah, so a couple of things are all answered. So we do have education sessions, we do have vacation rental stakeholder meetings, and that's mainly communicated through our email list that whoever has signed up to be notified of any kind of communication from our department. So you don't have to be a vacation rental owner to do so, and we just consider you a stakeholder. So if you're signed up for that list and we will send out communication that way. For example, we have a stakeholder meeting coming up here next Tuesday that we've communicated out with the last couple like newsletters we've sent out. So that's one avenue where we are reaching out, but that whether there are people that aren't vacation rental owners on that call, that could happen because again, this is a stakeholder list and not necessarily just a specific owner list. So but majority seem maybe be vacation rental owners and operators that join the call just to kind of get an update of what our department's doing. But we have in the past mailed out a flyer with our goal is to communicate to residents or owners that aren't vacation rental owners that are looking to do a vacation rental. So that's where we see how we can reach them other than information being on our website or they're not being part of our stakeholder mailing list. And so we sent out a flyer a few years back, really stressing the point that a vacation rental certificate was required in the city of Palm Springs. And we sent out quite a lot of flyers, thousands, and that's where we used the addresses that we found from the county tax rolls to really target the mailing address of these properties because as you mentioned, they might be a secondary home here in Palm Springs. So if we sent the flyer to their vacation rental, they may not get it. And so a lot of those flyers went out to other states and out of country, for example, Canada, Germany, etc. So we did do that. Now that's something we can do again as well. And we have the ability to create flyers and send out more communication as well to really target maybe that outside group that aren't signed up for our stakeholder list, not able to get to the website is as we think where our information is.
So what about a brand new homeowner in Palm Springs? How, if I've just purchased a property in Palm Springs and I'm considering renting it out, how do I hear from you? How do I learn about, if it isn't through my realtor, how do I learn about the local rules?
Yeah, so one thing we do have is an administrative regulation that has a disclosure supposed to be signed during that process of purchasing a house, and we've communicated that to the local regulatory boards to see if that can be included in it. Whether that's happening, I can't confirm yes or no. I've also reached out to the state of California Regulatory Board about how to inquire to get stuff into our local packets, I guess you could say. So haven't really had confirmation if that's in there being distributed to new homeowners. But we do have an administrative regulation in place right now that do require that realtors have that disclosure at least offered to the new owners or respectful owners to review. So that's one way we hope to have new owners know that there are rules in the city of Palm Springs. Additionally, Airbnb, which is a used, quite a lot in our vacational industry, but it's not the only platform that we have here in the city of Palm Springs. But Airbnb does have a landing page where when you are setting up your account to do vacation rentals, they do have a section that says know your kind of local rules. However, you do got to scroll down to the bottom and you see a city of Palm Springs down there. And when you click on that link, it takes you to our website and talks about the rules in the city like that. Now, it's not a web page where it locks you in there before and makes you agree and you understand that you've read it. I mean, you could expect that someone could easily say know your local rules and hit next or some sort of just bypass the bottom part of the page. But Airbnb does have a link on there that does direct new hosts that are signing up to Airbnb the property to at least an opportunity to visit our website and know about the rules. I don't believe VRBO or any other listing platform has that. I haven't looked to confirm, but I do know that Airbnb has such.
Thank you.
Just some general comments, sort of follow up to what you were saying. I know we're not supposed to ask your questions, but Ms. McDougall, thank you very much for coming today and for your comments. It was appreciated. One of the light bulb moments for me in that, on the same subject, I think in our proposal, we talked about, there were two things I think that we proposed for further outreach. One of them was the doing more with the realtors and the at their meetings, blah, 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 blah. I'm paraphrasing, but the other one was public announcements and I think advertisements, which I think to the speaker's point in her comments may not go very far in terms of reaching the right audience if many of the folks are out of state or out of the country, etc. So that was sort of a light bulb moment for me. Based on that, I would suggest that item B, that's in well, let's see. 5.25.110, it's the second to the last page, that we would strike that from the recommendations based on that, based on those comments. That's the public announcement. I think even when we proposed it, we even said, for example, a newspaper ad that said, are you considering short-term rentals, et cetera, et cetera. So that would just be my feedback to that particular part of the comments.
I would agree with that. I think a printed ad, especially in this day and age, and especially given our local. I don't think a print ad would be particularly effective. I don't think it would reach very many people.
Yeah, and I think especially given Ms. McDougall's comments that again, the light bulb moment that we're not really going to reach our target audience if the majority are living in the city of Palm Springs. So that would be my suggestion, is that we strike that from the recommendations. And Abe has done a lot of work at incorporating the suggestions into the code language. So just, I mean, obviously you'll take that back to him if we decide that we're going to go ahead with that suggestion.
I wonder whether one of the more effective means that's already in place, at least in theory, is this at closing when a person purchases a property in Palm Springs. You said there's something in the regulations that requires a disclosure. Okay, and is that not followed consistently? How can we put a little more tooth in that?
Well, I think I would have to just kind of get some more information on how to make sure those documents are printed at the time when someone is purchasing a property, right? So we have right now is our administrative regulation where it kind of has the form to be. I'm gonna pull it up right now, it's on our website, but I don't know if. And I'm not a fluent real estate agent, so I can't really detail about what happens, but if I'm off key here, but when real estate documents are printed, I think our hope was that that would be included in that, right? Whether that is included during the printing of all those documents, or if there's being printed separately and brought in, that's, I don't have confirmation if that's happening, so I think from a challenge is, and maybe turn into a goal is, how do we get that document to be printed at, the time when documents are printed, if such avenue exists, because what we do see is while it appears, and this is just from what we see in our offices, appears a good amount of the local realtors know the rules in City of Palm Springs. They know the rules in the Coachella Valley, so there's not as much concern there as where we might have outside realtors that don't really know the rules in Coachella Valley and Palm Springs, that don't know maybe if there is strict regulation in Palm Springs, and that's where we have maybe an opportunity to help try to communicate with those realtors to just educate on what the rules here in Palm Springs are. So more of an outside realtor agency, let alone compared to the local realtors here.
I think that section, I mean, those comments are exactly why we want item A in that same 525.110.
Yes.
City applications is why we put that in there, because it was the sort of the general consensus that maybe there's something we can do more in that regard. And I think you brought up the point of maybe I don't know, a sheet that's in the escrow documents that says, hey, are you planning to rent out your property? Stop, look at this stuff.
No, I think that is a laser focus on the market we're talking about.
Right.
That it's not a realtor, it's not the public, it's the person who's gonna rent out the
Right,
property.
right.
And so that strikes me as something that we should definitely put more of an effort into. And it shouldn't be, I would hope, that complicated to do.
So some of these documents, when you're starting adding stuff to escrow and stuff, it becomes legal. So it's a matter of whether or not we can ask for those documents and whether or not escrow will cooperate in that. So this is something that we were hoping that we could propose that would in some way put that information in front of the consumer, because as you mentioned before, TV ads, newspaper ads, even mailings today, everyone gets so swamped with so much stuff that most of that stuff either ends up in the garbage or someone doesn't see it. So we figure the most critical time a purchase before signing, that if someone is notified of rules and regulations on rentals, then that would create sort of a, like a red flag that they need to then pursue the right avenue in order to make sure that they abide by the city rules and ordinances. So that we thought was probably one of the most positive things that we were able to do. So if we could get that to escrow and then also get the real estate community involved in when a person is starting to write a contract and say, oh, by the way, if you are intending on renting your property, you should read this. So it's a matter of, I think those avenues are probably the best way. We just have to get everyone to cooperate.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I do think that the effort should be concentrated where it matters most.
Yeah. Different comment. Are you still focused on that one section? So the other thing in the public comments email, which I thought was very provocative, was this idea about having the property management companies actually be issued a license. Which I thought was very compelling, because I think if that were to occur, that also implies some other things that potential punitive things that could happen, like we're going to pull your license, right? If they were abusing the situation in terms of how that would work. Patrick, this is a question for you. Like, if we were to entertain something like that, how would, is that cumbersome? That's what I'm asking.
But, so one point to make is that agencies here in the city of Palm Springs have a business license. And so they have, they do that, it's an annual business license, so they have it. So then there's property managers that most likely don't have a business license, and I don't know if they're required to have a business license, and I don't know. I'd have to go back, talk with maybe our financial business license team to see, do they need one or are they required to have one? So, but agencies in the city of Palm Springs do, and we have quite a few agencies here in the city of Palm Springs, so they are required to have a business license.
But it's a generic business license as opposed
Right.
to a property management, a specific license. Because I think that
Well, a property management, I mean, a business license for a property management company encompasses probably a whole bunch of things, like, right? Like, I'm going to I'm going to find a tenant for you, I'm gonna rent it out, I'm gonna blah, blah, blah. But, or I'm gonna collect rents for you, whether that be long-term or short-term. But I think what you're getting at is, do we need something that's specific as a license to be a short-term agent for an owner of a home?
and that's what the public comment, or that's what Ms. McDougal suggests, is
Yeah.
McDougal, is that it's a business license that is specific to managing vacation rental properties. That means we're creating a whole new license. Now, that means we're creating that much more red tape. I mean,
Right.
I don't know. I mean, but
That's why I meant, like, how would you see something like that?
Well, we have such mechanisms right now in the city of Palm Springs. For example, just one that comes off the top of my head is our pedicab operations. So the pedicab operations in the city of Palm Springs are required to get a business license, but they're also required to get a permit with our department as well,
Okay.
to make sure that the function of the municipal code is being followed appropriately.
But aren't the licenses that are already in effect, like for whether it's long-term or short-term rental company, they have multiple hats. They're doing long-term, short-term, and in some cases, they also have the right to sell. So they have multiple divisions within that. So I'm not quite sure I would see the benefit of breaking down the license. You can still put it under the umbrella of the company and say, okay, well, call it whatever it is, but I'm not quite sure we would need another license just specifically for short-term rentals, since these companies are, if they are registered, they have the right to rent short and long-term. So what would be the purpose of having a license specifically for short-term rental?
well, it doesn't have to be specific for short-term rents. It can be for just managing vacation rents,
Okay.
period. And some of them can be short, some of them can be long. I mean, you can define the nature of the license however you like. And I'm not necessarily on board with it. I'm just trying to
No.
think of it as something, because again, going back to the comment, our proposed language says register with the city, that they,
Right.
and what does that mean?
I understand
Do they
that.
just sign something and mail it in?
Well, what if we took your example of the pedicabs, right? So they have their business license, right? But then there's some sort of a permit. So maybe we're using the wrong language. So they have the property management company has their business license, but they have to get a permit from you. I'm pointing at you, Patrick, but your group, from you to actually be an agent for an owner of a short-term rental property. Is that something that's doable? Is that
I mean, I don't know what changes in the code need to be made to make that happen. And probably discussion more of our side internally, like how do we create a permit? What constitutes having to have a business license, and then also a permit as well. And I'd have to take that back on our side and make sure that, you know. If there's rules that have to be followed before such actions take place, I have to talk, but again, though, we do have. You know, valet as well, we have valet operators in the city that have business license to operate in the city, and then they have to get a respective valet permit for. Their operations, because there's additional oversight that has to be done, and so maybe. And we have to look at, you know, where they're parking, what times they're parking, what's the volume of traffic in the city, so. Whether those additional oversights is what constitute permit, again, I can't say that's what makes the permit needed, but that would probably be something I have to bring back, talk about, but. But just kind of like an overall overview sense that, you know, we do have processes where we have someone have a business license plus.
Right.
Okay, but let's stand back from this a minute, because the reason we care about this is because the companies, the property management companies that do whatever it is, whether they register for the city or they get a permit or they get a special license, they are going to be subject to these new provisions. So we want to make sure, however we go about it, that that they are that they're defined, that something defines them. I get a little concerned about the idea of a company, why it has to be a company. Aren't there individual property managers? Like if I'm
Be a sole proprietorship, yeah.
a sole proprietorship, and maybe I take care of my next door neighbor's place for a while, so. I don't know, I think it's sort of a thorny issue, but I would like to know more about what options we have with the city, whether it means a permit, whether it means a special license. Whether our existing definition is.
It's a little vague.
It's a little broad and a little bit.
Okay.
So I think we can work on that, but I think it's a good point, and I think we should look at that further. Also, the language about excluding internet companies, again, I think that's a very valid point to indicate that we're excluding online travel agencies like Airbnb or VRBO, which are clearly not.
Right.
Not intended to be covered here.
Yep. Patrick, another question for you. Do any of the other municipalities that you're aware of, do they require not the online, not the Airbnbs, but like the property management companies have a special
Good
permit
question.
or register with them indifferently in any way?
You know, I have not looked into that, so I don't know
Okay.
if they do or not, but I can check and see if that.
That might offer us a shortcut. Labor wise.
Some of them may have already blazed the trail.
Good point.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the second page of the public comment, where the commenter suggests language indicating that management companies must ensure they have obtained a current vacation rental certificate prior to placing any advertisements. And I think this is a little bit of a technicality, but I think it's a good point.
Yeah.
And I suggest that we would change that language.
I agree.
I agree as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a technicality, but it's a good point.
Yeah, I think the meaning was just they're getting a copy of the owner's certificate so that they can act on behalf of they can be
Right.
the agency. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, good point.
Any other comments? Do we have one other?
Yeah, and I'd like to address that too.
Okay.
The other public comment
Yeah.
is about the
Before we move away from that, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, so just to wrap up, I just want to make sure I'm understanding where we left this, so. The point about the license issue or the additional permit issue, you're gonna do, Patrick, you're gonna do some homework to see. If there's any other municipalities maybe that already have some sort of process around it. And then if if it was possible to map out something similar to like the pedicab example that you said, they have a business license, but they also have a special permit, and how that would be administered.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, okay. And then council, maybe for Abe, if you can just, I know you're gonna update him, but because he put a lot of work into the redlining the code. So obviously just update him on these comments, and then we may have some changes depending on how that goes relative to the specifics on the license or the permit.
Will do.
All right, thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Laura, sorry.
That's fine.
No, you want to address.
Thank
the
you for
second
kind of
one.
nailing that down. Yeah, this, a local resident sent in a public comment expressing concerns about extending or the existing limit on the number of vacation rentals per year for those vacation rental owners who have not incurred any violations within the year. And the larger purpose being to somehow encourage and incentivize property owners to manage their property without incurring violations, and that there should be a carrot instead of a stick for those operators. And I get that, and I applaud the overall motive. But I also took to heart these comments that I don't think the reason there's a cap on the number of times an owner can rent out the property over a given year is for the neighbors. I mean, we're trying to balance the rights of these STR operators and the neighbors. And the council in its wisdom came up with 36 to become 26. And I'm kind of rethinking that as a reward for being a good citizen. I would like to come up with another way. Or maybe, I was thinking about this morning, it's not a right, it's a privilege to operate an STR. And so the fact that you can continue to operate it and not have to pay any fines and not to have to show up here, that's pretty good. And if you operate effectively and conscientiously, that should be your reward, that you get to keep doing it. So I'm a little concerned about extending that sunset provision, especially if would mean 90% of the STR operators are not cited in a given year. I'm just making that number up, but I think it's probably the vast majority don't incur a violation in a given year, and all of a sudden, they're exempted from the new limit. I don't know that, I think that's kind of a blunt instrument. I don't know if I like that.
Okay, I agree with that. I mean,
Do you have any thoughts though about other things, or do we need it?
well, we were coming from a point of how do we keep folks moving forward without violations and also being a good neighbor to the residents of the community. If they're gonna have a short-term rental,
Pizza
we
party.
want them
We
to
have a pizza
be,
party.
yeah, well, we could have a pizza party, but I don't think that would work.
No, I'm.
But, I understand the comment, and I also agree with your thinking about it as well, that there might be a better alternative to rewarding people. A license is a reward, and you're right, it is a right and a privilege to keep your license as long as you don't create a violation. So when we were thinking about what we could do as far as rewards, this just came up as a number. I believe January of 2026, they're going to be reducing it to 26.
Mhm.
So I would be okay with actually removing that recommendation and just saying that we just maintain, a reward and a privilege would be to maintain a license by avoiding any type of violations. I think that in itself would probably be okay. So we could take that one section out. I think that would be.
I would support that. What do you think, Steph?
I'm new to all these discussions, but I did get to review everything and I agree. I don't know much of the context around, you know, it's helpful for you to say that, you know, we're talking about 90 some odd or vast majority of folks don't, you know, incur these violations and things. Given that, yeah, I agree with the conclusions here. You know, that all sounds fine to me.
Yeah, I think thank you for pointing that out because for some reason, I missed this. I did not, in my rush with everything else, I didn't see this comment. So it is very compelling. And the reasons behind it in terms of our role as a board and you know, as it relates to the code and not to things outside of the code like that. I think the general intent of this, though, was for our obviously the owners who do manage it well and don't have violations and are doing well in the city. That business from like COVID, the explosion sort of just right post COVID has slowed down. And so I think that's sort of the impetus for it. Was there something that we could do to sort of help those folks who are in our city in doing business and short-term rentals that their business has gone through a change as a result of reduced traffic?
Sure.
That said, I think I'm okay, given this comment and our discussion here, I'm okay with removing that from the recommendations. I think though, to Lauren, to your point, maybe there's some alternative that we can put our heads together and come up with that's not sort of outside of our scope as to this point.
Sure.
Well, we could ask Vron, is that how it's pronounced? We could ask the actual rental owners and members what their thoughts might be about that, whether there's some other incentive that would encourage compliance or reward compliance. I don't know.
We could, but it would have to be something, I think, to get around this point in this public comment, it would have to be something that is within the scope of our board.
Yeah, that's true.
And not, otherwise we're going to be hit with this again, right?
That's
Because this is a
true.
compelling,
Yeah. Still wouldn't hurt to communicate
I agree.
with
Yep,
the organization.
I agree.
I mean, we definitely have some helpful information from them here today, so. I would encourage them to think about that and get back to us. But yeah, let's take that out of the proposed.
Okay, we can do that. These are great comments and we were just a small subcommittee trying to put together some great ideas. And the comments are really important because we also want to make sure that the recommendations work for everyone. And so this has been an ongoing project for quite a while. So we're really happy that we're actually able to bring it to the table again. So that people can really voice their opinions and concerns. So yeah, I think we can go back and make some changes. I think we need to also, I'm gonna have to make a motion that we make some changes and then bring it back to another meeting.
Sure.
To review again. So I'm gonna just ask if there are any other questions or
I'm not,
comments right now.
I'm not sure if we need to do that, right? Because then we already say, okay, if we strike item A,
Mhm.
right? And I think council is gonna let Abe know that.
Okay,
And then the other one that we just decided to remove was the 36, right?
right.
The rest of the license issue, Patrick's gonna bring back some additional homework in terms of, or information that we can see if we need to make any changes relative to that part of it.
Okay, so do we need to review it again? Or are you saying that you don't need to review it, that we just need to take out the parts that we all agree?
Well, I
as a
think
board?
once Abe makes those changes, right? That we're recommending today, if I understand the consensus, then we can review it.
Right, and that's
Here.
what,
Yeah.
and yes, and let me clarify, maybe I didn't clarify, maybe I was just speaking out. So we do need to make a motion that to have council make the corrections and then bring it back to the board once again to review.
Okay.
So
Makes
can
sense.
I make that? Are we okay with that?
Yes, but before we make that motion, I have one more change.
Yeah.
And that is, and this has nothing to do with the subcommittee's work, but where the definition of vacation rental, which is in the early part under the definitions. This has come up a couple times since I've been on this board. It says, without the owner for a period of 28 consecutive days or less. Let's make it nights or less, because a day is, what if it's 20? Do you count the day you move in? Do you count the day you check out? Can
It
you
is,
change it to nights?
it is nights.
Okay,
It
let's
is-
change it.
Yeah,
Is that correct? It's nights. It's 29 or more days, right?
No, I think there's a couple definitions in our municipal code to talk about transient activity, finance code and vacation rental code. I'll have to. I mean, I think correct with the current vacation rental code, it states that, let me
I'm
go-
looking right at it.
Yeah, it states 28 days.
Days, and that's not
less.
helpful, because what
Uh,
if, which days do you count? You count the day you check in and the day you check out, because that's 27 nights.
But then I believe our transient occupancy tax code means, let's see here, so our finance code defines transient, it means any person who exercised occupancy or is entitled to occupancy by reason of concession, permit right of access, license, timeshare agreement, or ownership or agreement, or other agreement of whatever nature for a period of 28 consecutive calendar days or less, counting portions of a calendar day as a full day.
so can we get clarification on that? And then we can just adjust it accordingly. So that might be just another item that we need to get clarification
It's a
on.
little thing, but it's gonna come up again.
No, you're right. Right.
Okay,
I think that's fair. I mean, I just think about booking Airbnbs and I think they go by nights and I'm sure a lot of the other platforms do as well. So just for consistency's sake, I think that's a good point.
thank you for,
But subject to that, I totally second your motion. Did you make one?
no, now I'll make it again. So I'll just make a motion that we allow legal counsel to make adjustments to the comments that we made and bring it back to discussion to the board at a future meeting.
I'll second that.
And then,
Hold on for a second.
would that be possible by June's meeting? Yes, thank you.
Okay. Board Secretary, can you take the vote?
Chair Vasily,
Aye.
Board Member Winterville.
Aye.
Board Member Heine,
Aye.
and Vice Chair Parker.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 to have the changes done and commit June 18th.
Thank you. That was great. Okay, next section is set aside for general comments, announcements, requests of the staff, or other issues of concerns from the members of the Administrative Appeal Board.
This is our turn to do it.
Yes.
I wonder, can we, I really like your point about VRON. Can we, I know we have a member sitting in the audience, can we ask to have them placed on a future agenda so that we can have a robust discussion around some of the subjects that just came up?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay,
I spoke with Francine and she's gonna send us an email, send the city clerk's office an email to coordinate that.
good. Okay, great.
Comment. Any other comments?
I have one last comment, and that is that in the March 19th memo from the ad hoc subcommittee, 2 of 35 cases were overturned. That's 5.7%, not 0.5%.
David?
Was that David?
That was David's math.
Did you flunk algebra?
I guess I did.
So did I, but it's 5.7%.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for,
and that's my own, that's it.
you sure?
Yes, I'm sure. Thank you for everything you've done. I know how.
No,
I
thank
know it's
you.
a thankless job and I know it's, oof,
Hey, no,
but
that's,
thank you.
thank you. Okay, this time we'll set aside for the city attorney to update the board on important matters initiated by the staff or previously requested by the board. Did we get an update?
No comment this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. City clerk, can you tell us when the next meeting is gonna be scheduled?
The May meeting will be canceled. The next meeting is June 18th at 5:30. And just as a reminder, June 17th is our joint meeting with city council. So if you could RSVP if you haven't.
Great. Okay. This, at this time, 3:07, we'll adjourn the meeting, adjourn the meeting. Thank you.